So this is Deborah Tavares with StopTheCrime.net. This is a video number 2, and this portion of the video is from the NASA War document. Those of you who have heard me in the past discuss the NASA War Plan, I will discuss it a little bit more right now. I call it the NASA War Plan, but it's actually called Future Strategic Issues, Future Warfare, circa 2025, and I can assure you the future is now. In fact, I use this plan as a checklist just to find out what has already occurred, because it has already occurred. So this was presented only 2 months before our 9/11 by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist from the NASA Langley Research Center. And the title of this PowerPoint presentation was Bots, Borgs, and Humans. Well, I can tell you it's about eliminating humans, and you'll see why. All branches of our U.S. military and military overseas are involved in this. We're in a global warfare. All the human populations are, in fact, the enemy. So it's profound technological disruption. We are in a multi-front war. I think that's pretty plain to see with what I've just said so far. We recognize, and they tell us in the document, that the world is in the throes of a triple exponential change of IT, biotechnologies, nanotechnologies, and technological revolutions. Changes occurring in scales of months instead of decades. They say that defense and offense equipment are major threats. Here's what they tell us. Humans have taken over and vastly shortened evolution of the planet. Global warming, we've caused global warming, pollution, deforestation, killing the trees through all the heavy chemtrailing. And have you noticed all the tree replanting that they're recommending that we do? Killing the trees and asking us to replant trees? Well, I'm seeing that in some of the documents. But huge public works projects are going to be targeted, such as dams. And why I underscore this now and ask you to make a mental bookmark is on this particular page, it talks about the Three Gorges Dam. The Three Gorges Dam is in China. China's dam, the Three Gorges, is going to be targeted, like the Oroville Dam will be targeted. They talk about they will be directing evolution. So they talk about the technical ages of humankind and how originally hunter-gatherers were nature provided, agriculture controlled nature, plants and animals, and the period of time that that occurred, industrial from 1800 to 1950, the Internet of Things 1950 to 2020, and then the future, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and then virtual reality. They also told us, which is already occurring, is the revolution upon society, the telecommuting, tele-everything, tele-shopping, entertainment, travel, education, medicine, commerce, politics, and socialization. We're being isolated through the wireless devices for mind control purposes. When we were traveling recently in Ireland and in the UK, people literally were stuck behind their wireless devices and not at all able to look up, even when we had a situation where most people would have stopped and asked if they could help us. They were too busy with the endorphin effects and the lock on the wireless devices. They talked about wearable, implantable electronics, communications, computing, sensory augmentation, health monitoring, brain stimulation, and more. We're going to get into that. AI and beyond computing, human brain characteristics and capabilities. They've already mastered this. Machine capabilities, and they told us here in this document, by 2030, a PC has the collective computer power of a town full of human minds, hive minds. This is what is occurring. We are being replaced by AI and technology. Global problems and solutions. I found this to be interesting. Serious problems. Energy, water, food, land, population growth, wealth generation, pollution, and warming. They go on, biomass food via seawater irrigation in current wastelands. We're being sold the idea that we're running out of resources, water. They talk about running out of fossil fuels. Our petroleum never came from dead dinosaurs. Another massive psyops. In all of the books, it says we must reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. Right away, all of the plans that your cities have adopted and my cities have adopted say that we've got to stop using fossil fuels. We were never using fossil fuels. The plans are made up. They are genocide plans, massive, massive reduction of energy. They go on to talk about the demise of the United States underclass. Actually, it's a demise of all industrialized countries worldwide. We're seeing it already happening in the United States. Stabilization of the world's population. That simply means reducing the population. Equalization of haves and have-nots. You're hearing a lot about shared economy. That's what this is all about. Altered political military outlooks worldwide changes everything, and everything has been changed. They talk about major emerging law enforcement issues. For example, and I won't go over all of these, but biocrime, protection of human electronic implants, protection of CONUS, that's the continental United States, societal disaffection, upheaval caused by rapid technological changes, road, air rage, psychosomatic illnesses, and withdrawal. That's what we are all suffering from now. Micro dust used as a weapon. Now this is extremely important. A mechanical analog to biomechanized mechanized dust, which is distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into our lungs. Dust mechanically bores into our lung tissue and executes various pathological missions. This is a completely new class of weaponry, and it is legal. For those of you that are interested in seeing what Morgellons looks like in your skin, I can show you that at the conclusion of this presentation. They talk about assumptions in combat of 2025, and remember it's now, it's not 2025. They go to tell us in and near theater, ports, airfields, possibly unusable, meaning bombed, disrupted. Beam weapons increasingly prevalent. Beam weapons increasingly prevalent. Again, anti-personnel, microwave and radio frequency weapon systems. Listen to this, heating, high power requirements. Heating, high power requirements. Surface effects, brain interactions, low frequency modulation. Now this is important, and I have the document here as well. It is on my website under Source Document tab. It's the U.S. Army Walter Reed document, a military document, and I'm going to go over some of the highlights on this presentation right now. So again, this is the effects of low power microwaves and the effects of behavioral performance decrements, seizures, they know, gross alteration in brain function, they know, and lethality, they know. This is no new news. None at all. It's warfare, battlefield frequencies deployed. So they also talk about often fingerprintless, bacteriological, viruses, prions, parasites, fungi, carcinogens, toxins, and hormone regulators. Biohacking, short and long-term scales, fatal to disability. This is all the plan. This is what we face. Lyme disease was a biologically weaponized and engineered, designed disease. They talk about aflatoxin. It's a carcinogen, airborne varieties of Ebola, Lassa, and more. binary agents distributed via imported products, such as in our imported vitamins, clothing, and food. They talk about individual societal targeted pathogens. In other words, they can select a certain race, certain ethnicity, and target that race, and they are. Long-term fingerprintless campaign as opposed to shock and awe. These are bioweapons. No more war as we have known in the past. What is apparently legal? Well, microwave radio frequency is legal. That's why they're rolling out 5G. It is legal. The smart meters were rolled out because they are legal. The cell phone towers that are beaming us is legal. The amount of frequencies that we're getting everywhere we go is legal. It's a weapons system. We're the enemy. So what is legal besides the microwave frequencies? Chemical weaponry is legal. Chemical psychological effects via sensory organs and weapon systems, having to do with our smell as well. Chemical personnel incapacitation weaponry, hostage terrorism, psychological warfare, psy-war. Look at CNN, Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, all psychological warfare. Compromised individuals massively to continue to create fraud, to roll in a system of mass genocide. Acoustic weapons are legal as well, and mechanical microdust is legal also. When we were in Cuba, we went by the area of the hotel where the U.S. diplomats were attacked by acoustic weapons. I don't know if any of you heard, I heard last night on the news, they've closed down Cuba now to the United States. And I would say that they're getting ready for war against Cuba. They hit Cuba very heavily in January of 2019, this year, with a massive weather weapon in Havana, where many were killed, mass destruction in Havana, because they're bringing Cuba down, just as Venezuela is being brought down right now as well.
What's the reason?
So robotics in the large, we're being replaced by robotics because robots save lives. They enhance affordability, they redefine risk and threat to the environment, and they enhance effectiveness. For those of you who have not watched the Stanley Kubrick movie, AI on Netflix, I would encourage you to watch AI on Netflix. Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick, to understand a little bit more about AI. Example of linear direct continental United States attack possibilities. They say it's inexpensive transoceanic unmanned vehicles, cruise, missiles, etc. Inexpensive blast wave accelerators. Bookmark blast wave accelerators. Remember that word? We're going to talk about that. Massive psy-war. Inexpensive or mines and torpedoes set along our coastlines. That's already being done. It's done. Fukushima. Think of Japan and Fukushima. Inexpensive binary and bio into our food supplies. Also inexpensive semi-submerged missiles, again, along our coastlines. Inexpensive Trojan horse civilian systems. National banking system and computers attack buildings, power, software, hardware. Interruptions in national and international payment systems, irrecoverable. Railroads, all freight cars networked, every one, on just in time, no reserve or stockpiles. Take down the auto industry. The auto industry is already being taken down by the electric vehicles, because they're telling us we've got to stop using fossil fuels. When are we going to stand up and say there's no such thing as fossil fuels? When? Okay? At least teach your friends, and most importantly your grandchildren, and pull them out of school, because they're being disinfoed. They're graduating into a world that doesn't exist. We've got to get them into reality, and that's more of what you're going to hear. So the auto industry is being taken down now with the replacement of electric vehicles and the requirement to be plugged into your smart meters, tracked, monitored, and incarcerated in ever-tightening geological areas and regions around the country and around the world. Some interesting possibilities. Listen to this one. Nanotagging with microwave interrogation of everything, everyone, imprinted during manufacture, maintenance, etc. Detonation of offshore seabed methane hydrate deposits to produce tactical, strategic, level tidal waves against low-lying regions. Remember, low-lying regions attack with waves. It's also tied in to blast wave accelerators. Counters to U.S. information dominance. They talk about Trojan horse viruses, etc. Chaos, Psywar. I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to race through this at this point now. But what I want to cover most importantly, fields and airfields in the United States, trains inside the United States are all undefended. Miniaturized dispersion of everything. We're talking about little tiny flying objects, dispersions. Operate out of cities. Degrade the U.S. information dominance. We are now being degraded. I think you have noticed that. Most recently, the World Bank told us that. The United States is being massively degraded. Machine intelligence, automatic warfare, much tighter, faster than human ops. Exploit the CNN syndrome, sink carriers via swarm attacks, capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time, and they are doing that on prime time. They're showing wicked events all over the world as a visual for climate change and massive fear. Fear creates complicits. Terror attacks within the continental United States using binary bioweapons, attack our critical infrastructure, take down use of an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, radio frequencies against our brains, serious Psywar, collateral damage, exploitation, etc. Affordability, warfare on the cheap, survivability, can see everything. Anything we can see, you can kill. That's why we have Landsat satellites up already. Landsat satellites have already surveilled all the global resources, and now Google is in the act. Google is overhead surveilling all of the resources and how we're using them. They can even see the transvaporation of water use in areas where you're not to use any more water, because they're telling you you're running out and you're not. The best part of what I'm going to be talking about will come shortly. There's a good part of what I'm going to talk about. Typical scenario, takedown of the U.S. by 10 people and only $10 million. Again, sabotaging our water supply, contaminations, etc. And accomplished and accompanied by serious psychological warfare. Telecommunicating everything, which we talked about. The U.S. is going to be and is now just one in the crowd economically, because we're being dismembered as a country. We're being taken down. Warfare on the cheap, warfare increasingly robotic, survivability affordable, power projection via deep water subs, blast wave accelerators, again. It will soon be possible to connect the human brain cells to silicone chips. I will tell you that they're telling us that machines are as creative and as smart as humans. Robots will become the norm. Binary biologicals into the nation's agricultural food supply distribution system, every home, every foxhole. Cheap, micro to nano, everything. Sensors, munitions, weapons, swarms, and hordes. So I'm going to take a pause. I've just now completed some discussion on the NASA war document. So we're going to take a pause before getting into how did this happen to us? What was in place that created this hell on earth that we're now living in? So we're going to continue on now with the next segment.